Okay, what's going on? This is Liam and welcome back to another video. So I'm going to talk about hearing loss, tinnitus, and it's a common question that I get from people, and they say, Liam, I got tinnitus, excuse me very much, I got tinnitus, and this can be people who've had tinnitus for 3 months, 6 months, 10 years, 25 years, I've had it all. And they've been to ENTs, multiple ENTs, audiologists, and the audiologists will invariably, with maybe minor differences, give the same diagnosis and prognosis. So the diagnosis is, okay, you've got ringing in your ears, okay, it's tinnitus. It's tinnitus, maybe you got a bit of hyperacusis, maybe you got some pulsatile tinnitus, which is a heartbeat in your ear, maybe you have a bit of vertigo in there, but let's just stick with tinnitus for the time being. So that's the diagnosis. And then they say, okay, so the prognosis is that it's for life. And it gets interesting when they start, or interesting by ridiculous, when they start saying why it's for life. And what they do is they'll give you an audiogram. And for those people who haven't got an audiogram yet, or haven't gone to the ENT yet, I'm not saying don't go. I'm just saying be careful what you believe, because you can't always believe everything that you hear. So you go and get an audiogram. And so again, for the people who don't know, you sit in a soundproof booth, usually, that's how professionals do it. You put on the headphones and you get 2 buttons. And they play different tones of varying volumes in each ear. Sometimes what the ENT will do is they'll cover their mouths and they'll say certain words and they want you to say them back, or they'll say it in here and you say it back, and it's a whole bunch of different things. Different ENTs have different theories of what they do. But the point is, if you have tinnitus, eventually the noise in your head, whether it's in your head, whether it's in your ear, it can be in many different places. Some people describe it as in the base of their skull. Doesn't matter where it is. Eventually, if you have tinnitus, the actual volume is going to interfere with your ability to hear the noises coming out of the headphones. So let's say your tinnitus sounds like a and it's just like constant. That's what mine was for about 4 years, constant, just in both ears, screaming, just awful. And so I had hearing tests, of course, and I couldn't hear some of the beeps, is the point, and maybe you've had the same thing. And so you take the test, you miss some of the sounds, because if your tinnitus sounds like, and there's a noise that goes, like just the same noise, or even a similar noise of a lower volume, eventually in one of the ears, you're not going to be able to hear it. And that's just common sense, right? It's just common sense. If you're sitting in next to me and I'm screaming into your ear and there's someone on the other side of the room going, hey, what's going on, saying a certain sentence, how likely is it that you're going to be able to hear that person whispering? You're just not going to hear them. It's just common sense. So you go back out into the ENT or the audiologist consulting room. They sit you down, they've got the audiogram, everything's mapped, and they go, yeah, you've got hearing loss, and the hearing loss is the cause of your tinnitus. And you go, oh my God, really? Can you fix it? And they go, unfortunately, we can't fix it because hearing loss is caused by broken stereocilia, and here's the graph, and let me explain it all to you. And they'll point to the diagram with their stick or their laser, and they go, unfortunately, there's nothing you can do. However, there is brand new tests. There's always a new drug. There's always a new technology. There's always a new earpiece. And I've said this before, but these things don't work. The science, people who think they work can't understand the science. They don't understand what's really going on. They certainly don't understand the underlying cause of tinnitus. And that goes for ENTs, people on the internet. It's a shame. I feel sorry for them, but it really is what it is. Anyway, so they tell you you've got hearing loss. And then what happens is, the people try and learn to live with it. They usually check on the internet. But what's happening now is, because me personally have so much success helping people. And let's just talk about my free advice. Sure, I have a paid course, but just my free advice helps so many people get silenced. You find me and people say to me, Liam, my tinnitus is caused by hearing loss. And it's funny, I've got hearing loss in that ear with the tinnitus, and I've got tinnitus in just one ear, I've got hearing loss in there. So obviously the hearing loss is causing it. And when you scare somebody, when somebody is really scared, and we've seen this in the last 2.5 years, my God, when you scare someone, unfortunately, all of their faculties and all of their logic and all of their capacity to think critically goes out the window. And this is not a slight or a slander on the people who contact me, but I'm trying to help you understand what's going on in your brain. Because let me explain it like this. Let's keep going with the story. Those people come to me They say they've got hearing loss in areas of tinnitus. I tell them, if you have tinnitus, there is no actual way to get an accurate read on whether or not you have hearing loss in that ear. I don't want to hear about the otoacoustic emissions test. I don't want to hear about the frequency matching, because as far as I'm concerned, you play the frequencies in. There's so many different things that play a role in that test, such as the tympanic membrane, the ossicles. You can have oxalate crystals inside of the cochlea that impact the functionality of the hair cells. It's just a real basic, silly thing to do. It's just ridiculous. I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm saying when you get those results back and say, oh, you've got hearing loss here, or look at the audiogram, look at the OAE test, go, Liam told me about this. And how am I supposed to pass this test? How am I supposed to know what that person over there is saying if they're whispering, if I'm, someone's screaming in my ear here, right? Now, people will say, oh, well, show me the scientific literature. ENTs and people alike who just really have just got such a hard-on for science are usually the ones who don't understand how corrupt and how useless it can be. They can't see what's right in front of them. And this is what I'm trying to get my clients to see, is you shouldn't always trust the experts. And when it comes to tinnitus, the experts, unfortunately, are mostly useless. And this doesn't just go for ENTs, but this goes for people who are, startup companies to help with tinnitus. And it's always the earpiece or the brain retraining or the meditation techniques or the CBT or the talk therapy or the trauma response or yada, yada, yada. None of it deals with the mitochondrial dysfunction. And they have all this fancy science that generally people can't understand. I mean, people don't even know the difference between absolute risk and relative risk. And that's just shocking to me, because that's what we go, oh, this is 75% effective, this is 100% effective. And first of all, the studies are done on mice, cross-species studies, throw them in the garbage and spit on it. Useless. If they just use animals to determine, is it going to kill people, and do we have a basic idea of whether this is going to work or not? Even though mice have completely different metabolic systems, it's just, stop the madness, stop it. So people have a massive hard-on for science, and they trust the science, unfortunately, most of the time. Not always bad, but I want to show you a video which really exemplifies the difference between how I was able to silence my tinnitus and how it is that other people are just stuck in this unfortunate echo chamber of, oh, the statistical, oh, whatever, just enough. Just so watch this video and check it out.
What is science? People talk glibly about science. What is science? People coming out of a university with a master's degree or a PhD, you take them into the field and they literally don't believe anything unless there's a peer-reviewed paper. It's the only thing they accept. And you say to them, but let's observe, let's think, let's discuss. They don't do it. It's just, is it in a peer-reviewed paper or not? That's their view of science. I think it's pathetic. Gone into universities as bright young people, they come out of them brain dead, not even knowing what science means. They think it means peer-reviewed papers, etc. No, that's academia. And if a paper is peer-reviewed, it means everybody thought the same, therefore they approved it. An unintended consequence is that when new knowledge emerges, new scientific insights, they can never, ever be peer-reviewed. So we're blocking all new advances in science that are big advances. If you look at the breakthroughs in science, almost always they don't come from the center of that profession. They come from the fringe. The finest candle makers in the world couldn't even think of electric lights. They don't come from within. They often come from outside the breaks. We're going to kill ourselves because of stupidity.
So that was Alan Savory, and basically he was describing the difference between, almost prescribing to a religion, and not saying religion is bad, I'm just using the idea. It's like, why do you believe in this religion? Oh, because, we believe in this. Where's the proof? There's no proof, but we have faith. It's that sort of thing. That's fine. That's whatever, don't hate me for that, but whatever. There's that, and then there's just common sense. Maybe that isn't the best analogy. I'm not trying to take a dig at religion, but you understand what I'm saying. You could use anything for that. Let's take Scientology, whatever. Let's just use Scientology and common sense. You kind of get what I'm saying there, right? So these people come to me, and this is the most upsetting part of all this, is these people come to me who are really struggling. They're in a lot of pain. They're really, really concerned about what's going to happen to them. Are they going to have this for life? All the experts are telling me there's nothing I can do. I'm so worried. I have kids. I have a job. I'm only 30 or I'm 60 or whatever the different. I've had this for 25 years. I heard that when you have it for more than 2 years, the likelihood of it going away is yada, yada, yada. Like the list goes on. And it's really sad to see because I was the same way. But you don't have to be that way. So they follow my advice. And these are people who've had tinnitus for decades. Some people have even come to me who've had it for as long as they can remember, since they were very young, like 2-3 years old, which is, it's incredible to see they can reverse that, but it doesn't shock me. And so what happens is they get silenced. Just like practically everyone who comes to me gets silenced, whether they have tinnitus, vertigo, pulsatile tinnitus, hyperacusis, and even now visual snow, and hearing loss, which is what we're kind of talking about here, which most of the time isn't even actual hearing loss. Now I get it, there's sensorineural hearing loss, there's different types of hearing loss, I understand that. But even those people who come to me can reverse it as well. Let's focus on the tinnitus impacted hearing loss. They get silenced by following my advice. They go back to the ENT and they say, it's because they had a lot of the time, you go to see an ENT and then they get you to book in an appointment for 6 months later. And they go, well, I've already booked it in, I've paid for it, I should go and talk to them. And, they go back with silence. They talk to the ENT and they go, yeah, my tinnitus is completely gone. It's amazing. I had it for 5 years, I had it for 6 months, I had it for 3 months, I had it for 20 years. It doesn't matter, whatever it is, right? And the ENT goes, oh, really? Okay, well, let's just run some tests to make sure, even though the client is sitting right there and going, I have silence, it's gone, I had it for 10 years. But the ENT goes, again, that Alan Savory video, well, no, we have to use the science and we have to use inferences and I want to extrapolate the information, I want to compare it, blah, blah, blah. And they get the test and they have perfect hearing. Whereas before, they didn't have perfect hearing. Well, they didn't have a perfect hearing test. Their hearing was fine, except for the fact that the tinnitus interfered with it. So then what happens is they go back into that office, the very same office that the ENT said there was nothing you can do. And the ENT goes, well, I don't know what to tell you. Darren, whatever, I don't know what to tell you. Your hearing chart is fine, your left ear is fine, where that hearing loss is gone, and they're going to have silence. And then what usually happens, and this has happened so many times, the client goes, it's amazing, I found this guy called Liam on the internet, he's not a doctor, but he knows what he's talking about, he's helped all these people, it makes a lot of sense, it's very cheap, blah, blah, blah. When you help people, they really turn into people who are going to spread the word because they're so thankful. And that's why most of my business comes from word of mouth. It truly does. Anyway, harping on there, but anyway. And then the ENT goes, well, it probably would have gone away on its own. Or we probably did the hearing test wrong in the first place. They don't take any responsibility. And it's just really disgusting to see. And this is what I see a lot of people do who really don't understand what they're talking about, is they go, oh, well, it would have gone away on its own. And so my client says to them, okay, so you're telling me, Dr. So-and-so, that I've had tinnitus for 35 years. And every 3 years or so, it was getting worse. And even you said there was nothing that could be done. The Mayo Clinic said there's nothing that could be done. All the talks I've seen on the internet say there's nothing that can be done. And I found this guy Liam and I applied his advice, and within 6 to 8 months, it went down, 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 and now it's gone. And you're saying that was a coincidence? And they go, I don't know what to tell you. Look, the important thing is you're better. Have a nice day. You would think that anyone who had a basic fucking interest in the well-being of people would see that there is a solution to tinnitus, which is showing up now, that is undeniable, that they would go, oh my God, stop the presses, get everybody in here, gather around, let's take notes, please tell us how you did it. But they don't. You know why? Because they've been brainwashed into thinking that if there's no scientific literature to back it up, then it can't be so. It's the equivalent of me putting my fingers in my ears, closing my eyes, and going, la la la, I can't hear you, la la la, I can't. It's exactly the same. It's exactly the same. Because their brain just goes, they literally cannot open their mind. You can call it intellectual laziness, you can call it malpractice, you can call it whatever you want. But they can't see the fact that tinnitus is not for life, and all of the stuff they've been taught is mostly BS. Mostly BS. I mean, this whole thing that when you go in and you get a hearing test, and they say you have hearing loss, even though the tinnitus is so loud you can't hear it, the fact that they don't have the common knowledge and the critical thinking to comprehend that maybe this isn't the best thing we should be doing is shocking. So you have to ask yourself, is it intellectual laziness, or do they know what they're doing and they just want to make money? You have to ask yourself these questions, because maybe it's both, maybe it's one, maybe it's none. Some of these ENTs really are trying to help, but still, remember, there's two types of ENTs. Ones that do care, ones that don't. And they both have just as much chance of helping you as the other, practically, because their education is the same. It's exactly the same. You don't go to medical school and go, okay, who actually cares about their clients? Okay, line 1. You don't care? Okay, line 2. It doesn't work that way. It's exactly the same. So I hope this helps you understand a bit more about hearing loss. And I just want you to, the point of this video and all of my other videos is not really to slander ENTs, because I don't argue with people. I've had many people confront me and I go, I'm not arguing you, because most people who try and argue with me are stuck in this paradigm, and nothing I will do or say will get them to see that they're wrong. That goes for ENTs, everyone else. But you, if you're listening and you see what I'm saying, and you have an open mind enough to see that this works, and you see the testimonials, and you see the common sense, and you notice that your ENTs really just don't know what they're talking about. For the most part, they can help with a lot of different things, for sure. And I'm not saying don't go, but don't let them have this power over you that will determine the rest of your life, because it's horse shit, okay? You can get silence, you can fucking do it. Now pull yourself up by your bootstraps, tie up your shoelaces, put on your clothes, get out there and do it, because you can fucking do it. It's done for you. Here it is. Have a great day. Hearing loss is mostly bullshit.